All right. Good afternoon, Bursting the Books, Remixing the Narrative family. Thank you for joining us today for our latest edition of our community town halls. I'm Jermaine Nolan, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dominique Clemons, and we are going to be chatting a bit about mental health around the holidays. So, first of all, Dominique, are you looking forward to anything these next couple days? You got any gifts coming up, or
I definitely have some gifts.
yeah?
And I usually reserve like big soul food dinners to the holiday season. So I'm really looking forward to eating good old ethnic
Abs-
food.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's my favorite part of the holidays,
Mm,
starting at Thanksgiving and going all the way through the new
mm-hmm.
year. But so the holidays can be a time for stress for a lot of folks,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that mental health is something that we don't typically talk about um, within detail or just intimately in our communities and in our families. So I think that this is a very important conversation to have, especially around the holidays, but just in general to feel comfortable bringing up these conversations with our community and just making it another way that we stay healthy. You know, we eat every day. Some of us work out often, and we just need to exercise our mental health too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, One of the things that I love is the fact that there are so many more of us actually coming to therapy. So I've been working to try to shift the narrative that we've had that Black people don't come to therapy, and
Okay.
really move it towards like Black people are starting to work on their mental health because it is true. I myself personally, I went into private practice in 2020, and we all know that that was where the George Floyd situation was really highlighted. Um, and that actually sent a lot of people to therapy in droves, like
Mm,
to the extent that many therapists were looking for other therapists of color just to be able to keep up with the demand. So I'm really excited to know, and I'm excited to talk about the fact that there are so many of my clients are first timers coming into therapy. Um, and so I think that Black people, we got to start changing our narrative. We don't struggle with therapy. We starting to get into it, and I'm excited about it.
exactly, exactly. So, okay, so I'm gonna share this screen and then we can start our conversation.
Okay. So,
So, oh, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, so I kept it short and sweet. Feel free to ask me whatever. I'm down. Let's
Okay,
get into
okay.
it. So before we get started, I want to highlight that first, like I noted there, the season is challenging for many people. People are wrestling and working through a number of things, whether it is personal traumas, grief and loss, or other things that we'll talk about that show up. So the first thing is that I really believe in normalizing experiences. And so the first thing is that you are okay. You're normal,
Mm,
whatever that is. You're normal if you're having a hard time this time of year because it's not uncommon. I also like to highlight that it's okay not to be okay. Um, so much, especially in the African American community, it is discussed that we have to work twice as hard to get
mm,
less of the credit for the work that we do. However, we are people, we are talented, we are gifted, and we are not required to work as hard as everyone else if we respect our humanity. Humanity, I'm sorry. And so, in wanting other people to honor us, we first have to honor ourselves and honor
right,
the fact that when we are not okay, that is okay. It is part of the human experience, and that actually rather than suppressing it, we welcome people working through it and allowing other people to support through it. So I just wanted
right.
that was really important to highlight. um
Yeah, and I think that's important to even as someone who's receiving family members during the holiday season, just being that just understanding that some people aren't may not be okay. And
mhm.
although your connection with Christmas or New Year is maybe a happy one or something, just making sure that you have space for that person who may not be doing the best. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I put a real quick quote: for fast acting relief, try slowing down.
Mm,
Right, and that was by Lily Tomlin. And so with this, I want to take a moment to invite you to some breaths. Okay.
okay.
um I want to encourage taking the breaths that your body needs. Taking a moment to be present in what's happening. And so usually what I tell people, or I encourage people, or I will walk people through if it works for their breathing patterns, is the 4 by 4 by 4, which is really quick. So basically, inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and hold for a count of 4. If that works with your
Mm,
natural breathing pattern, I encourage it. If not, go with what feels good to your body. Usually, what I encourage people with is that if you are engaging in breath work and it doesn't seem to be helping calm you down, you probably would benefit from slowing your breath down.
mm,
The reason why this is so important is that when we talk about emotions, we talk about our heart, but everything that we process with emotions is actually in our brain. And one of
mm,
the things that our brain needs to fully process is oxygen. So a lot of times when we're high stress or things are happening, we do have a change in our breath patterns for many people. So you might find that your breath is more shallow and things. Take a moment, take a breath, allow the
right.
oxygen to hit your brain. It increases processing and it actually helps you to manage and navigate situations better. So I always like to go back to breath.
Hmm. Yeah, and then that's an interesting connection because how you're feeling affects how you literally feel.
Hmm.
So if you're feeling anxious, it's great to slow down. So yeah,
Yep,
yep.
yep, just slow down.
Dang.
Okay. So getting into some of those common challenges that exist during the holiday, as I mentioned on the other slide, like grief and loss. That's the first one that shows up during the holidays, especially for many of our peers in the African American community or any community at that. This is a time where we really tend to take more notice of loved ones that we may have lost,
Mhm.
traditions that might have been carried on by those loved ones, and as families try to regroup and recover when members are no longer present. um it can be beneficial to just honor that that's something that's missing. It's something that's different, whether you've
Mm,
made peace with it, whether you're still working through acceptance. It's really important for people to remember that healing and growth and grief is not
mm,
linear. And so you might be at acceptance one day and denial the very next day, and that is
mm,
all okay. So again, that grief and loss is there. If you're feeling like you shouldn't be in the space that you're in, I encourage you to give yourself some more compassion because, again, you are normal.
mhm,
Grief and loss is cyclical. And what I often tell many of the people that I work with is that when you are experiencing grief and loss, as challenging as it is also a gift because it reminds us that we are loved so much by someone, or we were loved so much by someone that their lack of physical presence is felt. Um,
mm,
and so we want to honor that. What I often do is I encourage people to incorporate rituals. I myself am navigating a new grief experience with my grandmother passing 2 years ago. And so
mhm.
the thing that has helped me to navigate that is cooking, because during the holidays, growing up, that is how I learned how to cook, was holiday dinners. So I
Right.
carry that tradition. I play music. And I bond with loved ones the same way I would have if my grandmother is still alive, and that helps me to feel connected. So I do want to encourage you all, if you have those rituals and traditions, please engage in them if they serve you well. And if you cry your way through it, I always say when you are done crying, the tears will stop. If they haven't stopped, you're not done crying. And that too
Mm,
is okay. And I always highlight that because that usually is the biggie around the holidays. Um,
mhm,
then we have work frustrations, right? Contingent on your work, there may be a increase of demand for you, or there may be a slowing of business. And those things can segue into financial stressors. Um, and so wanted to create that space um to understand that some people are frustrated because either business is slow, they might not be able to pay bills the way they usually would have, or maybe they're not able to gift their loved ones the way that they would like to in a way that's meaningful and valuable. And so that can show up. Also, family conflicts are really a hot topic during holiday seasons. um,
mm,
for some people, they might only interact with their family during holidays. And so when family gets together, if there are unresolved challenges that exist, they sometimes tend to surface. Um, and then we have loneliness. So again, we have people who are experiencing grief and loss. Um, But that may look different for people on how that is. Some will be surrounded by family. Some people might find that they feel very alone. Um,
Yeah.
then we have overstimulation and being overwhelmed. There's so many things to do with the holidays, with traditions and gifting and visiting, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And so that can take a toll on people as well. And then I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge seasonal affect challenges. So we know as we get into the fall, going towards the winter, we get less sunlight. And as
Mhm.
we get less sunlight, that is less vitamin D and all of those good vitamins that we get from the sun. That can also impact people's moods. So I do encourage individuals that notice a pattern of their mood shifting to consider seeing your primary care physicians and getting your vitamin D levels checked if you hadn't. African Americans are genetically predisposed to vitamin D deficiencies, and it does show up in other places outside of emotional challenges such as sleep, weight, etc. So it's really important to check that. And for some people, they actually do take supplements in the winter time to help to regulate.
Wow. So I'm sitting here learning because I am always sleepy when it's cold and it's dark. So yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, some vitamin D. That's why people always say, like, you should have at least an hour a day in sunlight, but the sunlight
Mhm.
is very important, and we are not melanated for no reason. Our skin is designed to be in the sun. So,
Yes,
with
yes. I
that
was just
being
talking about this not too long ago. Even the birds fly south. So
mhm.
there's a reason. Yeah.
Yes. So making sure you check that out. And a lot of people, again, they don't know to even check or that that's the thing. And I know myself, I'm transparent in that the first time I went, I forget what the normal level was, but I was like, I was a significant amount of points to the point that I had to be on prescription vitamin D for a little while. So I always
Mm,
encourage people to check because I had no clue that I was deficient and I was pretty significantly deficient at that time.
okay.
Um, so we want to segue into like, what are some of the ways that you know that you may be experiencing holiday blues? And we have some things listed. Those mood swings, you might find yourself up and down. You might find yourself more angry or irritable. Your emotions may show up more intensely. So where something might have typically upset you and made you sad, you might find that you're doing more weeping.
Mm,
Or you might find that you cussing folks out. Stress do that to us sometimes. So making sure to check in with that. If you're noticing changes in your sleeping patterns, your eating patterns, you're finding yourself not feeling motivated, wanting to spend less time around people, or maybe even wanting to spend more time around people. Those are indications that you have a need. And that is
mm,
okay. We just want to make sure that we're paying attention to them so that we know that we need to attend to them. I often talk about with that notion sometimes for the discussion around laziness, right? We still kind of engage in the conversation even amongst ourselves. Um,
mhm.
we don't always give ourselves space for rest. And we live in an American culture with capitalism that does not give much room for rest. So,
Exactly.
um, really encouraging those things that if you're noticing these things happening, take a moment. Your body is talking to you. Your body is designed to always take care of itself and you. So, with that said, when you notice these things, I encourage you taking a moment to pause and see what's happening with you. What I also did was I put a little note here. I wanted to highlight that this is not all encompassing for what
Mhm.
the holiday blues may look like, and also that these things can also show up in other mental health um, diagnostics or needs. So, with this being said, again, making sure that we don't just write it off to dismissing it to holiday blues as well, but really taking a moment to say that my body is talking the same way that we get hunger pains when we're hungry, headaches when we have too much tension and stress. It's just another way that our body talks to us.
And we need to listen.
Yes. So, tools and tips to combat holiday blues. Rest. You need
Mm,
it. That's just it. You need rest. Take it. Eating a healthy diet. People really underestimate at times how much your mood can shift and be regulated and impacted by your diet, your concentration levels, your comprehension levels, because again, food is fuel. So making sure to reduce processed foods, eating a lot of fresh foods, making sure that you're getting those vegetables in. Um, I can't help but to say it every time I talk about like portions and things like that. I think
mhm.
about the traditional the serving size plate, the 2 small sections and the big one on the bottom. So,
Uh-huh.
typically, what do you put in the big section of your plate?
That's usually the meat or the starch.
The meat or the starch. That is
Yep.
absolutely wrong. Meat and starches belong at those top ones, and that big section is actually for fruits and vegetables.
Okay,
Oh,
because when I'm thinking around the holidays, I'm for sure going to the turkey first.
uh-huh. Right. We always stick our meats in that big section, but actually the distribution is that your meat should fit in one of the smaller sections and
See?
that vegetable should be taking up the space. So get down on them greens and string beans and okra. It's all right. Uh, maintain your routine, or if you don't have one, develop one. During the holidays, especially if we have children and different things going on, your routine can really be changed while we're on vacations. But maintaining that routine, your body works on cycles. So keeping your body following those natural cycles, although it seems like such a minor thing, can really help to stabilize your mental and emotional health, because your body ultimately, when you change the system, is going, wait a minute, what happened here? um,
Mm,
so maintain those routines, plan ahead. So I know for me personally, with a lot of the people that I work with, when we get into holidays, some of them having those stressful family situations, we
mhm,
plan around what a visit with family is going to look like. For some of you all that may have high conflict families, you may want to give yourself a time limit before you go and commit to that. I've also had people who have other family members that they find to be supportive, that may
mhm,
be stronger at navigating dynamics, to talk and plan with them and trust them to tap you out when you need to be tapped out. Um, and then also just being creative with, like, if conflict arises, what are the things that I do to tell myself when I need to walk away or when I need to leave? So
mm,
always planning ahead. If you know some things happen every time you go, plan around it so that you can miss it. If you know that the family, once the drinks start flowing, that's when things get crazy, then that means when the drinks come out, that's probably your cue to leave. So just taking
mhm.
some time to plan for what works for you. Budget based on your finances. So
Excuse me.
many times there's so much pressure for people to gift everybody, or to get the latest, newest, whatever. If it's not in your budget, it's not in your budget. Um, and it's the thought that counts. So allow yourself to not overextend, because when we overextend, that's when resentment sets in. So to save yourself, stick to your budget so that you don't make an investment where you expect a return where you really didn't mean to.
Mm,
Okay. I encourage you all to remember to have fun. It's still the holidays. It's time for family. It's time for connection. Especially now we got the surge of Friendsmas and Friendsgivings and things happening.
mhm,
So just remembering to connect and have fun while we're having all of these things going on. Um, Utilize your support system. Again, if you have family members, friends, mental health professionals, colleagues that can show up for you in ways that are meaningful at this time of year, please utilize that. And then develop a mental health toolbox. Um, so for some people, they have mental health professionals that they see. But aside from that, one of the first things that most of us clinicians are doing is teaching clients how to cope and how to develop
mm,
coping skills. So I encourage at the very least to have 3 go-to things that you know can calm you down. Um, for me personally, like I said, breath work is always the first thing that I go to.
yep,
Self-talk is another really popular one that people can use, and that is basically, how do you talk to yourself? When you're in stress, are you telling yourself to suck it up and get over it? Or are you saying to yourself, hey, this is really stressful, but I can make it through? So
mm,
always remembering that the way that we talk to ourselves really does impact our mood. Um, so self-talk is another tool that is really easy to use. I
mm,
encourage people to get physically active. Sometimes we have stress and tension in our bodies. So using fitness as a way to burn that energy out in a productive, non-harmful way is really great.
mm,
So whatever it is that you find helpful, I'm down for creatives. I have a client who pole dances for stress relief. I have another one who twerks. I have somebody else who like cooks, somebody else who cleans. So whatever it is that works, that allows you space to regroup and it recharges you, get into it and keep it.
mm. That part, I think it's the keep up with it.
Mhm. Yes,
That
and
toolbox
today
needs to be exercised also.
I got a quote for you. I say this to my clients: lack of ritualistic self-care indicates lack of belief that you are deserving and worthy of time and effort.
Mm,
Right? What do you mean by that, Dominique? Most people bathe because it's important that they smell good. They go to work because it's important that they have finances.
it's all
Um,
self-care.
all of these things, right? But these are things that we do, and we do them because we're important. They're important to us.
Mhm.
However, taking that moment just to center on self, just allowing ourselves to regroup. Usually, I hear people say things like, "I don't have time for that," or "I'll get to it when." And I always respond with, "If you are not on your priorities list, why would you be on anyone else's?"
Mm.
Make sure that even 15 minutes of your day belongs to you, taking care of you in a meaningful way because you are deserving of it.
Man, man, to the
So,
exclamation point on that one.
right.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, to put it in a nutshell, because I kept it short and sweet, and you can hit me with all the questions, I'm down for it. Don't fear seeking out mental health support.
Mm,
Again, as I said at the beginning, I'm trying to work to support the narrative, and it's what I see because it's my reality. But I know I live in a different world, right?
mm.
But I do see Black people coming out and coming into therapy. So we are coming. You get a therapist. These therapists of color, we coming in with some personality and some pizzazz and some favor because I know my sessions are lit. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
No more white coats
no,
and clipboards.
mm-mm. We laughing, we cracking jokes, and we quoting reality TV to get you together. It's all right.
Mm.
So don't be afraid of that. Therapy can be as long or as short as you want or need it to be. Okay. So I know some people like, how long do I have to be here? Years? How It's up to you. You control your therapeutic experience. If you have a solid clinician, they will be working and collaborating with you to help you get to your best results. Okay.
Mm,
Um, Group therapy and support groups are also an option. Some people may not want to do individual. With group therapy, you may be doing some processing, um, or even with support groups. Some of them are open and some are closed. So that would be something you would have to check with that specific group. But when they're closed, a lot of times they can get a little bit deeper into work than that what might happen in an open group just because of like a little bit of more increased privacy, but allowing you to have that space again to feel like you're not alone, to know that other people are navigating this with you, and to have other people, not just professionals, that are able to give you feedback and thoughts that have been helpful and useful to them that may be useful to you is really cool. I like to also highlight that AA and NA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous meetings are not solely for addicts. They are also
mm,
for the family members and loved ones of individuals who have addictions. Because if you know anything about addictions, when you or an individual has addictions, they are not the only person that experiences that. The loved ones experience it as well. And they actually have like the Al-Anon for teens. They do have meetings specifically for that. So if you know young people that are either working through substance abuse challenges or that are the children of individuals working through that, they can get supports there. And because of COVID, they've become a lot more accessible. So they actually,
mhm,
if you go to the AA website, you will actually be able to get schedules for virtual meetings as well. Um, and I'd be remiss, AA meetings, NA meetings, there is one happening wherever you live 24 hours a day. That is the way that they are designed so that you can always have some level of support. So if you are struggling with substance or addictions challenges, that is a option that is available to you. We have individual therapy, which is that one-on-one with you and a clinician working through whatever it is that you would like to. And then you have family therapy. So again, we at the holiday times and family stuff comes up. And with family therapy, it is not limited to simply the nucleus. I've had
mm,
adult sibling groups, I've had parents and children, I've had uh any type of family combination you can think of. I've seen it in the therapy room, and that it can have really amazing results. So a lot of times I think when people think about therapy, they think about just themselves, group therapy, or like romantic relationship therapy. But it exists in any confine. I've even seen friends come to therapy together.
mm,
So you
mhm.
can use this tool to help you to navigate a myriad of things.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is so great. Okay, so we have one question from
Okay.
so far, one question from one of our viewers, and it's from Miss Gorham. And Miss Gorham is asking, how are you helping young people dealing with loss during the holidays? And I think this is such an important question, just because the realization or the I'm sorry, the word I'm looking for is the life that the young folks, that some of the people that we serve in our community they are dealing with loss, and they're dealing
Mhm.
with very real life situations and adult situations. So, what are some tools that you exercise, or that some folks can exercise to deal with loss during around the holidays?
Awesome. I'm glad you asked that question. So, one of the things I have to say, because I spent the last, oh gosh, I spent about 4 years exclusively like treating children.
Okay.
And so with that, what I found is that it's really not a whole lot different what we do with adults and children. It's the language we use that changes, right?
Mm,
So with children, I really encourage ritualistic things. One of the first things that a lot of therapists that I know and how I was taught is that there is a book. I cannot think of the name of the author right now. I wasn't prepared for
okay,
that.
no worries.
But it's called The Invisible String. It is a small children's book that I would say is like for like our school agers, preschool school agers. And basically the book's premise is that no matter where you are, there is an invisible string that connects to the heart of you and someone that you love, and that
Okay.
it's always there, and like they can tug on it and you can send your love. And
Mm,
it does touch on death as well. So one thing is for children, especially when they're younger, books are your best friend,
mm-hmm.
right? Help them find books to read because it creates a story. They can hold on to it. Another one that doesn't directly talk about grief and loss is called A Terrible Thing. And I love that because the terrible thing is never identified in the book. So A Terrible Thing is another one to talk about, and it talks about children working through it. And that one also introduces therapy to children.
Okay.
But fundamentally, I really am promoting rituals. I'm really like into African Americans, that we have culture. As much as we talk about not having culture and being lost, we very much so have culture. And with that, again, those rituals that we do during the holidays that we have shared with loved ones, very
Mm-hmm.
often when death and loss and grief and loss occurs, we usually leave those things by the wayside with that person. So what I
Mm,
have found that can be really helpful with children is bringing them into those activities and framing them as this is a way that can help us to feel connected and to give our love to that loved one. That can be really helpful for them. Allowing space for crying. It
yeah.
is okay. It is okay to allow that. Again, like I said earlier, when you are done crying, there will be no more tears. If there are tears, you still have to cry, and that is okay. So honoring the space and honoring that it doesn't feel good and that it is a sad thing and that there isn't anything you can do to change it. However, as ironic as this sounds, I use this analogy because it sticks for people. Grief is like herpes. It shows up at
Mm.
a really unexpected time and it hurts, but the longer you have it, the less frequent you have an outbreak. So
All right. That's definitely one that we won't forget.
exactly. And so I love to bring up creative ways to have those things stick
Right.
because if I say a textbook way, it'll just fall in the foul of all other things we choose to forget. But
Right.
remembering that the struggle is part of that process and that experience. Um, Also, I really enjoy like I get into libation ceremonies.
Mm.
Right? And so whether it is, traditionally we joke about it and some people consider it a hood thing, but pouring out liquor for your dead homies, that is
Mm-hmm.
part of a behavior in libation ceremonies. So whether it is liquor, whether it is fine grains, whether it is water, because water is a living thing, you can pour these things out. You can affirm and speak life to the love you had and speak honor to that individual. So I am
Mm-hmm.
not above creating rituals even for children. If we got to pour rice out into the ground, onto the floor to say those things, do it. I encourage children to draw it out. Give them paper and pen. Give them paint. Artistic expression can be really great. Um, and then just engaging children and acknowledging and validating their feelings, but then getting them to participate into an enjoyable activity can also be really great. So that's what I usually do with the babies,
Mm.
and it tends to go over very well. Mhm,
The rituals, and definitely the strength of accepting. So
mhm,
accepting the grief and what you're feeling and having those tools.
mhm,
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so so this will be live streamed, as we said, but also um, people will have the opportunity to go back and watch on Facebook and YouTube. And if we have any more questions, they can leave them in the comments, and people can reach you that way. But
Yes,
now that I have you right now, can we have some other ways of reaching you or get in contact if anyone
absolutely.
in our community wants to connect with Mrs. Clemens?
All right. So currently, what is it? I am licensed in Illinois and Indiana. I have the telehealth license. We're working on wrapping up the other one, so we'll be finished soon. But I can be reached at our website, Holistically Therapeutic, and that is WHOLISTICALLY Therapeutic THERAPEUTIC. That is our website where you can learn about the practice, what we do, and who is staff here that works. I have some really great clinicians that I work with. Um, and we are a trauma focused practice. So that is our specialty. And we help people navigate through those things. I can also be reached at my email, Dominique at holisticallytherapeutic.com, or you can contact through the practice, and that is area code 708-834-7544. I do have a social media presence, but it is on hiatus. So we gonna
Mm.
let us pray on that. Uh, we don't because I'm overwhelmed. So we gotta have some balance, and we're working on that. So we're
Exactly,
getting someone
exactly.
new to come in and keep that rolling. But the website is the fastest way to get a hold. On the last page, there's a contact. If you put your information in there, you will receive a call within 48 hours on business days. Um, so yeah, and then hopefully we'll be having some new projects coming out next year. So we sitting tight on that, but there
Yeah.
will be a new social media presence that will be coming out because I've been getting whooping, so I got to show my face.
There you go. There you go. And I'll make sure that we get all of that in text in the comments. So if anyone wants to follow up, go to the website, check you out, connect anyway, we'll make sure that we have that. So, well,
Absolutely.
first of all, thank you for spending this time with us, giving us some tools.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have a great Christmas, a great New Year. And you all tuning in. Thank you for tuning in with us. This is the last one that we'll have before the holiday season is over. We'll connect back with you guys soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.